Welcome everyone, in this video we'll be making a RAG agent by using Pinecone in n8n. This workflow makes it possible to create your own vector database to store all your different files and to connect an AI agent to use all the data from this database. This can be very useful if you have very specific information or details of, let's say, your company, and you want to train an AI agent to use this information to help you with specific tasks in your company. In this video, we will cover two different workflows. One workflow enables us to input the data in our vector database, and one workflow allows us to use an AI agent in combination with our vector database to get all our information and do specific tasks. So right here we have our workflow that allows us to use our AI agent in combination with our Pinecone vector database. This enables us to use all our information from our vector database in combination with the information from the OpenAI database and solve all the problems that we send via a Telegram trigger. This is the second workflow, and this allows us to input all the files in our Pinecone vector database and store it in an efficient way. So before we start creating the workflow, I'm first going to give you a quick demonstration of how we input our data and then how we retrieve data from our vector database. So I have connected a Google Drive, and in this Google Drive I have a sample invoice. And the sample invoice that I am going to use is this one right here. And here we have just some information with some financial data that I want to retrieve. So I'm going to run test workflow. Then it's going to search for the file, then it's downloading the file, and then it's inputting it in our vector database. And the workflow has successfully run. So now I'm going to our vector database. And if I see here, I have 4 records. And if I look here, there have been 4 records been put in our vector database. And right here, I can see the data. So the information has been put in our vector database, but now I want to retrieve that information and use it. That's why I'm going to the second workflow, and now I want to get the price. Okay, now I'm going to send a voice message and I want to retrieve the gross amount of our sample invoice. So let's say, give me the gross amount of the sample invoice. And then we run test workflow, and now it's using our vector database, and the gross amount of the sample invoice is the correct amount. Now you can see that we have retrieved the gross amount of the sample invoice. Right here you can see that we have used our vector database to get this data. But before we are going to make these workflows, I first want to explain how a RAG system works. RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation, and this allows us to create a database that will enhance the knowledge of an AI. So this can be very useful for, let's say, a business, if you have lots of invoices and financial data, or you can create a database tool on how to do certain tasks in a company. This can be very useful because normally an AI doesn't have this specific knowledge. So what you're actually doing is you're giving your AI agent more information so it can help you better with certain tasks. To make this RAG system, we're going to use a third-party service called Pinecone. Pinecone is a very popular vector database. There are many other different vector databases like Supabase, but for now I have chosen Pinecone because it works fine for me. And it's trusted by very big companies, as you can see right here. Pinecone is free to use if you use it for yourself. I am on the starter pack right now and it's working just fine for me. But if you want more data, then it's allowed in the starter pack. Pinecone is a very good option for you. And before we are going to start building the workflows, we first are going to set up our Pinecone vector database. After you have created an account, you will land on this page. So we are going to create a database. So you click on here, and then I have already set up my n8n database, but for now we are going to create a new one. So click here on create index and then choose a name. So for now I'm just going to use example. And then right here in the configuration, you are going to choose the text embedding 3 small. Later on I will explain why I need to choose this, but for now just choose this one. Then for the cloud provider, we just the AWS, and then the region, we're just leaving it at right here. And that's all you need to do. So just click on create, and then it will initialize, and now your database is active. and we have no records yet. That's all you have to do for now to create your database in Pinecone. Now we go back to n8n and start building on our workflows. The first workflow that we are going to build allows us to input the data into our vector database. So I have used a Google Drive trigger because I want to upload my files into Google Drive, or when I updated a file in Google Drive, then it will automatically get uploaded to my Pinecone vector database. Here we have our Google Drive trigger. First, you need to connect your Google Drive credential. If you don't have a Google Drive credential yet, you are going to click here, click New Credential, then open the docs. And then if you follow the n8n docs page, you can easily connect your Google Drive account to your n8n account. After that, we have the pull times is mode every minute. The trigger is changing involving a specific folder, and then the folder itself is expenses. And that's where I have uploaded all my files. Okay, and then watch for files updated. So if we upload a file, then the trigger will be activated. Next, we have a search. So after the trigger, we want to search for the file that has been updated. First, you need to, again, connect your Google Drive credential. The resource is file folder, and then the operation is search, because we want to search the file that has been put in our Google Drive. And then right here, we have a limit of 50, of max 50 files that we want to search for. And in the folder, I have the Pinecone files. Next, after we have searched all the files, we want to download the files so we can put that in our vector database. In the downloading the files node, we first again connect your Google Drive account. Then the resource is file and the operation is download, because we need to download the files from our Google Drive into the n8n, and then we can upload them into our vector database. And then the ID is the file ID itself from the Google Drive that we need to download. If all went correct, you can view here in the output the file that has been downloaded. And right here we have our sample invoice that we are going to use for this video. Now we get our Pinecone vector store node. Before we can use it, we need to connect a couple of things. So first we are going to use the embedding OpenAI, and this embedding OpenAI is the same AI that I have used when setting up our Pinecone vector database. And it's important to have them the same. So you can use a different AI model, but just remember that you have it the same in your n8n workflow as you have in your Pinecone vector database. And then the document, we need the default data loader to load our data in. In the default data loader, we have the type of data that's just binary. Mode is load all input data, because we want to load all the files that we are going to put in our database. And then right here, I have metadata. And right here I have the name, and that's just the file name, and then the value, and this is the name of the original file that we have uploaded from our Google Drive. It is important to have the files in the vector database the same as the file names that you have uploaded from your Google Drive, because it is much easier to retrieve the data or call upon certain files if you know what the file name is. So that's what we do right here. And then finally we have a recursive character splitter. And the recursive character splitter is an important part, because this will chunk your files in smaller files. So if you have one big file with lots of information, then this will split it up in smaller parts. So the RAG agent is much faster in retrieving your data, because every time you want to look something up in a very big file, it needs to read the entire file. And with this, it only needs to read a small file with maximum of 1000 characters. Right here, I have the chunk size on 1000 and chunk overlap on 125. So this will just ensure that no data gets lost. Okay, now we have added the attachments to our Pinecone vector store node. And now the last thing we need to do is set up this node ourselves. To set up the Pinecone vector store, we first need to create a credential. And creating a credential for the Pinecone account is not very hard. So if you don't have a credential yet, you just click here and create credential, and then you will get this. You need to fill in an API key. To get your API key, you go back to the Pinecone website, and then on the Get Started page, we right here have a button with Generate API Key. I already have my API key, but if you don't, you click that here, then go back to your n8n and put your API key right here. After that, you will get a notification if your connection has been successful. The operation mode is Insert Documents, because we want to insert the documents into our vector database, and then right here the database where we want our data to go in. And then finally here we have our output of the data that's been put in our database. Okay, that's it for this workflow. Now we are able to input our data and connect to our vector database. So now we are going to the second workflow to be able to talk to our database and retrieve the data by using AI agents. We are now in our second workflow. So we first start with the trigger. I have set up a Telegram system where I am able to send audio messages and text messages using Telegram and then get my information. On this channel we have already made a video on how you can set this up for yourself. I will leave a link down below for the full tutorial if you're interested. For now I'm just going by these notes very quickly. So right here we have our trigger with our Telegram account. Then we have the switch, so it can choose if it is a voice or a text message. If it is a voice, then it will go by here. Then right here we have our audio message. Then here the audio will get transcribed and finally it will be sent to our AI agent. If it is just text, then it will go through this path. And then right here we have the text message. And then it will go to our AI agent. Next we have our AI agent. The AI agent is a tools agent because we are going to use the Pinecone vector database as a tool. And then right here we have the user prompt, and this is just the question that we have asked. And the question right here is give me the gross amount of the sample invoice. With the AI agent, I have connected the OpenAI model. To connect your OpenAI model, you first need an OpenAI credential. If you don't have that credential yet, click here, open the n8n docs, and if you follow these steps, you easily connect your OpenAI account to your n8n account. For this workflow, I'm using the ChatGPT 4o mini, but you can use any other model if you want. Right here we have a window buffer memory node, and this allows the AI agent to remember the questions that we have asked him before. And right here I have set it to 5 messages. Next we have the most important part, and that is the tool part. So with the tool part, you first need to connect the answer questions with a vector store node. And in this node, I have just given the data name, the prompting information, and then the description of the data. Dus I have set it in invoices and financial data of my company because we are using a sample invoice PDF that has financial data. Right here, I have set the limit to 5, and this is the amount of data that our vector database will send back to our AI agent. Now we are going to connect this node also with the OpenAI node, and that is just the same model and the same account as last time. And then for the vector store, we are going to connect our Pinecone vector database. And then in the Pinecone vector store, we are going to connect with the Pinecone account that we have just made. And instead of inserting the documents, we are now going to retrieve the documents because we want to retrieve the information that we have put in our database. And then the Pinecone index is the database that you have made for yourself. And then right here, we use the same embeddings OpenAI account that we have used while creating our database. So now we have connected our vector database to our AI agent, and this makes it possible for the AI agent to use all the information that is in our database. And finally, we are going to send back the information we have retrieved from our database to answer the question that we asked. That's what we're going to do right here. The first is connect your Telegram account and then send a message and then the chat ID, and here in the text is the output of the information that we have retrieved. And now you are completely set up to not only input data into your vector database, but to also retrieve this data and to use this to answer specific questions of, let's say, your business. If you don't want to make these workflows all by yourself, I will also leave a link in the description so you can download these for free. And I hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below and I will answer it for you. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any new videos.